Hello everybody, I'm Pastor Charles Yates and I'm the pastor here at Concord Baptist Church in Bates City, Missouri, and I'm excited to invite you to watch the following video. It is from our repertoire at Yates Educational Ministries. This particular video is about the positive aspects of behavior modification, 6 general principles as put forth by William Yon in his book Created to Learn. We also want to invite you to check out our website at Yates Educational Ministries. The website is www.yatesedministries, one word, yatesedministries.org. We invite you to take a look, and if sometimes perhaps we can fulfill your educational needs, whether you're a homeschooler or whether you're in a Christian education or in church education of some sort, Sunday school training, whatever it may be, then we may be able to help you. Our goal is the glorification of God through Jesus Christ by teaching the Word in more effective ways, whether we're teaching children or whether we're teaching adults or youth, whatever it may be. There is some good things to learn from academic education, and the principles involved in teacher education can be applied in the church and Christian school environment. And we do so to glorify our Father through Jesus Christ, His Son. We thank you for watching this video, and we hope you have a pleasant day. Thank you again. Thanks everybody for being here for the 6 general principles of basic behavior modification in a positive light. We'd like to welcome everyone here from the Concord Baptist Church Sunday School teachers, and also would like to thank the Bible study group that is here tonight. Well, the first thing we'd like to do is give you the source of our information. This is the problem actually, not the source. This young gentleman obviously is having some behavioral issues, and we see this very commonly. In fact, I think some of us saw last Sunday, as a matter of fact, I had to get on with my own daughter during church because of her behavior. Well, inside a classroom, it's very difficult for us to control student behavior. We have options. Of course, we have the positive behavior modification, which we'll be talking about tonight. We also have negative aspects of behavior modification, sometimes called punishment. Now, we're not talking about taking away, when we talk about punishment, we're not talking about taking away something negative that may affect them. That's a whole other issue. But punishment includes embarrassment, loud talking, corporal punishment in some instances. We're not going to address those tonight. What we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about 6 principles of behavior modification, including the initiating of, the establishment of, and the sustaining of positive behavior inside the Christian classroom. Well, we'll deal with this young man in kind. The first thing I'd like to do is tell you our source, which would be William Yon in his book, Created to Learn, which is available from Rodman Holman Publishing. 2nd edition was published in 2010, and it's very good in explaining positive behavior modification. Now, there are 6 principles involved in positive behavior modification. They include shaping, and we'll talk about that. They'll call teacher praise. We'll talk about that. The Premack principle, which most of us use, we just don't call it the Premack principle. Also, 3 others: token economies, self-reinforcement, and involving the parents. Now, the last 3 we don't really use that much, with the exception of token economies. Of course, we have the candy and the gold stars and things of that nature. That is a type of token economy. And we do try to involve the parents in all aspects of Christian education. Well, the first thing we want to talk about, of course, is shaping. Now, you have principles involved in shaping. And what shaping is the reinforcement of any positive response that in some way resembles the desired behavior. Now, this is the first step in shaping. And we must remember, in shaping, it is a step-by-step process. This is reinforcing the positive behavior. So what we're shaping is their behavior. It reinforces any positive response that in some way resembles the desired behavior or the outcome. The next step which we go to is we reinforce responses that more closely approximates the desired outcome. If little Johnny is sitting quietly, and that's what we want him to do for most of the time, obviously there will be exceptions when he don't, but when he does, then we reward them in some way. We reinforce the positive aspects of his behavior that most closely resemble, most closely approximates the desired outcome. The third is the reinforcement of only the desired behavior. See how we move from step to step. First, we reinforce positive responses that in some way resemble the desired outcome or desired behavior. Then we only reinforce the aspects that most closely resemble the desired outcome or behavior. And then we move to the third step in the shaping principle, where we reinforce only the desired outcome. So if they're doing anything except what they're supposed to be doing, they are not reinforced. Now, of course, that is shaping. The second principle involved is teacher praise. It's very important. Teacher praise is feedback with an added affective component. Now, what is this affective component? It is a positive emotional response. Every one of us, whether we're students or whether we are teachers or whether we're husbands or wives, whether we're children, whatever we are in life, we desire praise. And if you're in a classroom environment where you are a learner, you are in a subpar group, the lower level group, the students, the learners, and you have someone who is higher, the teacher, the educator, the parent, and you long for the praise of that person. Now, teacher praise is a very important aspect. We love to talk about teacher praise. But remember, it has to be effective. Ineffective praise or non-genuine praise is pointless and useless and can be detrimental to the student. So, it must be genuine. You must really feel willing to give real praise to the student. Also, it must be proportionate. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo your praise. Don't make little Johnny or little Susie feel like they're king on earth when all they did was obey the rules. It must be proportionate. It must be focused on specific behaviors. Don't praise them for something you're not trying to get them to do. If you're asking them to be quiet when you enter the classroom and they do that, then praise them for them. Boys and girls, thank you for being quiet as I came in today. You're doing exactly as I asked, and I appreciate that. And we'll have a more fun class today because you obeyed the rule. Well, obviously, it must come immediately after the behavior, and then you must award attainment of goals. You praise. If you set a goal and say, little Billy, or in the case of an adult teacher, Mr. Bill, if you will show up on time for the next 3 meetings, then I will, of course, appreciate it very much. And you're a good student. And if you attain that, well, you wouldn't say if you attained that, when it was attained, when he showed up for 3 meetings on time. Mr. Bill, I appreciate the effort you're doing. You're doing a good job. You add a lot to our class. Thank you so much for being on time. People like to hear that. I like to hear it. You like to hear it. Most people like to hear that. And then finally, we do not need to reward others for simply being quiet. If a goal is a desired behavior, let's say turning in your homework in a class, and the kids turn in their homework, but you have 3 or 4 that don't, but they don't make a ruckus, they don't cause trouble, they don't have behavior issues, they just sit there and be quiet. You don't praise them because they still did not succeed in what you wanted them to do. They did not attain the goal. So you don't reward them. You don't praise them. You might say something like, well, you need to try harder next time to get it in on time. You might say, you know, if you really need help getting your homework, I'd be glad to talk with you after class. Or you might say, well, I might need to get your parents involved, but we'll talk about that toward the end. In this instance, we do not reward others for simply being quiet. Now we're moving on to the third principle, and this is relatively easy. This is called the Premack principle. The Premack principle was named after education psychologist David Premack. This is sometimes called the grandmother rule. Work first, play later. What this is this allows learners to do what they enjoy to reinforce what the teacher wants them to do. Okay, if all of you will put your heads down and be quiet for 5 minutes while I do this over here, then we'll go to recess 5 minutes early. Or one of those classic lines, if you eat all your vegetables, then you can have dessert. It's the same principle, the Premack principle. This is another way that we positively reinforce desired behavior. Now the next three are kind of put together, since this is a brief lesson on these. Of course, if you're interested, we have a much more lengthy seminar that goes into more detail for each principle, but I'll talk with you about that after the meeting. We have three. We have token economies would be number 4. Now what a token economy is you give something that has no intrinsic value of its own, like a gold star or a pretend coin or something along those lines. But you use those to have a greater gain. So if you say, well, little Susie, if you get 5 gold stars for memorizing 5 Bible verses, then we'll allow you to read your Bible verse in big church. Or, if you memorize 3 verses before the next class, then I will give you a bag of candy. And each piece of candy you have, you can trade it in for something greater. Those are the kind of examples. They're simplistic, obviously, and you can come up with your own token. We do that a lot in Sunday school. We don't do it so much in the educational environment, except in the lower grades, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, etc. But one of the greatest rewards that they have from the token economy is a sense of accomplishment. Hey, look, I've got 5 stars. Hey, look, I've got 5 smiley faces. Whatever it may be. And it gives them a sense of accomplishment. But we need to be very careful that that sense of accomplishment does not turn into pride. That is a moral lesson, and that must be taught along with the token economy. Well, the next one is something a little bit more simplistic. It's called self-reinforcement. We really don't use this that much. Now, basically, this was clarified by a gentleman named Robert J. Steinberg. Sorry, I had to refer to my notes for just a second. But he said basically self-reinforcement is this. The learner receives a demonstration of a target behavior inside the classroom. The teacher models it. The teacher demonstrates it. Now, as the teacher models the behavior, he talks through step by step. I'm going to write my name on the board. I'm writing my name on the board. I want each of you to come up and write your name on the board. There's my name, Christopher. Now, the teacher models the behavior while talking through each step. The next step is the learner attempts the behavior without the adult or the teacher guiding him. And he's doing it while talking to himself. So he goes up to the board. I'm going to write my name on the board. The next step, he goes up and writes his name on the board again, but this time he's just barely mumbling. I'm going to write my name on the board. And then the last time, he goes up and he writes his name on the board, but this time all of it's mental. This is the last step in self-reinforcement. The learner practices the behavior with what they call covert self-guidance, by silently talking to himself. Now, we do this all the time. When we're putting things together, when we're playing the piano, when we're playing chess, we're doing all sorts of things. We're talking to ourselves in our mind. We're thinking. And this is self-reinforcement. If I do this, this is going to happen. Okay, I need to do this. I'll do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. This is self-reinforcement. And then, of course, the final is parental involvement. Parental involvement is very important, especially in children's education, but more especially in church education and in secular education for lower grades. Christian education in the classroom, in a regular school, Christian school. It's also important in the secular world, but they seem not to want to do this too much these days.